Welcome on into NHL Puck Line. I'm Lauren Jabara here with Drew Goldfarb. And Drew, I have not seen you since Thanksgiving weekend. How was your break? How was your Thanksgiving? Did you do anything fun?
Not as quite as eventful as yours. Congratulations, by the way. But yeah, it was good. A lot of good food and some football, some hockey over the weekend. Saw my favorite wrestler make his return to WWE. CM Punk is back. And I know that his mask is off camera. But hey, best in the world is back. He's just there to make money, not to make friends. We're here to both make money and make friends. So, very exciting weekend.
That should be the slogan for the show. Make money, make friends. Let's get into it. There's 3 games on the slate tonight after a lot last night, and there's going to be a heck of a lot of games tomorrow where we're going to have an extended show. But tonight, 3 games on the slate. The Habs in Columbus to take on the Blue Jackets. We have the Red Wings in the Big Apple taking on the New York Rangers. And last but not least, the Caps have headed from the nation's capital all the way to the left coast to take on the Los Angeles Kings. Let's get right into it. Habs, Blue Jackets will send you to Columbus. For the Canadians right now, they've won 2 of the last 3 against the Blue Jackets last year. And this year, they're sitting second from bottom in the Atlantic, kind of what you'd expect from a team that's starting to rebuild a little bit more, try to find their footing underneath them. On the offensive side, though, Cole Caulfield leads the way. The team overall averaging 2.71 goals per game, bottom 6 in the league. There's been a lack, Drew, of secondary scoring at this point. But Alex Newhook, he's embraced his new team so far this season. He has 12 points in 21 games after spending his first couple years with the Colorado Avalanche. What have you thought about him really pushing that first line?
I mean, the pace that he's on is outstanding for him, especially. I mean, we know, obviously, a very young player being only in his 3rd season, but these would all be new career highs if he keeps this pace. He's on pace for 23 goals, 23 assists, and 113 shots, which that wouldn't be a career high, but that's not really quite the most important of statistics. He's been very efficient in producing goals. 6 goals on just 29 shots. Talk about a lot of the times I bring up the idea of regression to the mean, positive or negative. A 20% shooting percentage, probably not sustainable long-term for him, but he's been very good. And you talked about the younger players as well, Cole Caulfield. Nick Suzuki also 17 points through 21 games. So they've been getting some productions from some of their younger guys for the Montreal Canadiens. So even though the wins aren't coming just yet, I'm sure that long-term, that is something that they're looking forward to. And hey, there's the CM Punk mask sitting right over there over my shoulder.
I really like it. I know this team has a lot of exciting young pieces. There's a lot to be optimistic about if you are a Habs fan for years to come, but they do need to build around that. I feel like this season, though, they need a little bit more from a guy like Sean Monahan. He's been off the score sheet for 6 straight games. He's a veteran in this league. What do you need to see a little bit more from him to really get the Habs going?
I actually saw him. I was at the game when Montreal was here in Las Vegas when he played the Golden Knights, and he was a real standout player. He was making things happen in that game for me. I noticed him quite a bit in that one. So to see him not getting the production, not getting on the point sheet, it's going to be something I think that he turns around a bit. But it's just kind of a difficult position for him right now, I think. And, he'll make things work again in the future because he is a talented player. But it's a bit of that streakiness, and right now he's just not on the good side of that streakiness. But again, talk about regression to the mean. At some point, it'll break back through. Is he going to be that top-line player that maybe some people thought he might have been? Maybe not, but he's not long-term going to have to be that guy for the Montreal Canadiens anyway. So if he plays anything like he did when I saw him playing against the Golden Knights about a month and a half ago here in Las Vegas, then that would be plenty for the Canadiens. But yeah, just not the greatest of runs for him right now.
On the defensive side for the Habs, they're allowing just under 3.5 goals per game. It's bottom 8 in the league. Sam Montembeault is going to be in net tonight, 4-3-1 with a .908 save percentage. But with the way Columbus is playing right now, they've won 3 of their last 4 games, including a 5-2 win against the Boston Bruins. But still, I know their underlying metrics aren't necessarily great offensively. They're scoring less than 3 goals per game, 2.91. But Boone Jenner leading the team right now with 16 points. He has found the back of the net, Drew, 11 times. 4 goals over the last 5 games alone. He's really been pushing that offense forward, trying to will them some wins during this stretch.
Yeah, and also now the franchise's all-time leader in games played. So congratulations to him, the longest, most games played of any Blue Jacket in NHL history. A franchise that is now Shocking to me as an older, I guess, middle millennial that is now over 20 years old. But yeah, Boone Jenner, mid-millennial. Yeah, late 80s. I think that's mid-millennial. So Boone Jenner, though, really good. 1 or more points in 5 of his last 6 games. You mentioned it, 4 goals in that stretch. Also 3 assists and 13 shots. So he's not getting a ton of the shots on goal when you see that over 2.5 at -176. Even in this stretch, he's only averaging just over 2, a fraction over 2 shots on goal per game, but he is making the most of it with 7 points in that stretch. So he's been very good, really leading this team. He's on pace for 39 goals this season, an 11-5 split of goals to assists with his points through his first 23 games of the year. So he has been producing, especially for a Blue Jackets team that, like you mentioned, isn't getting a ton of offense this year, at least not getting a lot of pucks in the net. Boone Jenner has been outstanding for this Blue Jackets team, and they have been coming on as of late as well. On a bit of a run for the Blue Jackets, winning 3 of their last 4, as you mentioned, beating a team that is right at the top of the Eastern Conference standings as well during that run.
I know, and during this time, I feel like the team does need a little bit more from a guy like Patrik Laine, 5 points through 13 games in the season. He's averaging a shot less per game compared to what he did last season. But on the defensive side as a team, they're allowing 3.4 goals per game. I feel like this is going to be a back and forth battle between 2 teams that are kind of trying to find their footing. But right now, the Blue Jackets definitely have the upper hand, and odds makers obviously see that as well. This is going to be a really fun game to watch. We have the Habs in Columbus taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. That game on tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN Plus, Sportsnet, and Bally Sports. Next up, let's take you to the Big Apple. The Red Wings are in town to take on the red-hot New York Rangers. This is the second time that the Rangers will be hosting the Wings in the last 3 weeks. The Wings have some excitement right now surrounding them with another, I guess you could say, mid-millennial and Patrick Kane officially signing a year contract coming back from hip resurfacing surgery. I know he's not necessarily going to get a ton of minutes on the ice. He's an older guy. He's still aging like a fine wine, though. But what does he add to this winged wheel team in the Detroit Red Wings?
I mean, certainly depth. And when you're also talking about a team that, like Detroit, adding a guy that's been there, that's been to the postseason, that's won Stanley Cups is always going to be helpful in trying to take that next step with the franchise. I like the addition of Patrick Kane. This is going to be an interesting matchup here, too. I do like that we're talking about this game here because this is going to basically be some trivia questions down the line after Kane retires years from now, where it's going to be he played in Chicago for so many years. What are his other teams? We've got the Rangers. We've got the Red Wings. He's just making it to play for all of the American original 6 teams if he gets up to Boston at some point. I think it's a really good addition. It's going to help kind of flesh out this Detroit Red Wings team and really make them a bit deeper in depth, especially when we get towards the second half of the season, going into the postseason. Always crucial in the NHL.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun to watch him back on the ice, back playing. The Red Wings are going to be without their captain, Dylan Larkin, due to injury in this one. They have won 3 straight games since returning from Sweden. And in that stretch, they've only given up 3 goals. And 2 of those wins are against the Bruins and the Devils. So speak of the Devil, the Red Wings are rolling right now. Offensively, they're top 4 in the league. They're averaging 3.7 goals per game. David Perron, though, 11 points on the year, 7 goals, 4 assists. Talk about that depth scoring. He's really provided that from the third line, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, what more could you ask for out of a guy who's in your middle 6 there than what David Perron has been able to accomplish? 7 goals, 4 assists. His last 2 games, 3 goals, no assists, 6 shots on goal. He has been on a bit of a tear as of late, but his previous 12 prior to those 2, so it's a 2-game run, but the previous 12, only 2 goals and 2 assists. So he's been really good basically in this last week, and he kind of broke out of a bit of a slump from that. Last season, 24 goals, 32 assists in 82 games. So he has been really good in these last couple of games, and when he is on and when he is contributing, he can do some big things because he's not that far removed from being a top 6 and possibly even a top line player when you go back just a handful of years. So we know he's capable of producing as he gets a bit older here. Being in that middle 6 is a really good spot. And again, especially when you add a guy like Patrick Kane, a guy like David Perron being able to put up some decent numbers in the middle 6 is going to be even better if you're a Detroit Red Wings fan. But again, the last 2 games, he's really been producing. For that, if he can keep that going and not fall back into that bit of a drought that he had for the previous few weeks before that, I think that's going to be really good. But again, time will kind of tell if he's going to be a bit more consistent for the rest of the season as opposed to just streaky.
Consistency is definitely the key word. Defensively, the Wings allowing 3 goals per game, but the Rangers on the other side, they sit at the top of the Metro after winning 3 of their last 4. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Yes, I know they got crushed by the Sabres on Monday, 5-1. But crazy stat about this Rangers team, they have not lost 2 games in a row all season long, which is really difficult to do. I know we're only a third of the way through the season at this point, but that's still a crazy stat for them. Offensively, they're middle of the pack. They're scoring 3.3 goals per game. They have the 3rd best power play in the league, so they're definitely going to take advantage on the man advantage. But Mika Zibanejad, he's been great this year. 15 points in 20 games, 5 goals, 10 assists. What's impressed you most about the way he's been playing and the Red Hot Rangers right now to start the year?
Yeah, I mean, New York relies on a guy like Mika Zibanejad to really produce and provide that offense, and he's been doing that, like you mentioned. Last year, an amazing season with 91 points. He's currently on a 4-game point streak that's seen him net 3 goals, pick up 2 assists on top of that, and 9 shots in his last 4 games as well. Only 1 shot over his last 2 games, but he has at least 12 games of 3 or more shots this year. So if you're seeing that minus 154, basically half the time, more than half the time, that is paid out taking the over on Zibanejad for 2.5 shots on goal, and going up against a team like Detroit, whose shots in goal for and against are basically even right around the 30 mark per game this season. Could be very interesting. But Zibanejad, when you're talking about that offense just for the New York Rangers, with the ability with Artemi Panarin, who has 30 points, which is unreal. Chris Kreider's got 20 so far, and Zibanejad with 15. He has been producing and creating a lot. 5 goals, 10 assists so far on the season. And he's a guy that, I mean, the Rangers had some pretty high hopes last year, this year, and it relies on guys like Zibanejad producing and performing at kind of the level that he's going right now. I mean, he's not on pace for 91 points, but he's on pace to still contribute and help out this team offensively.
Yeah, and really good news on the defensive side for this team. Adam Fox activated from the IR, expected to suit up after missing the last 10 games with a lower body injury. That's just going to add to a defense that's already one of the best in the league. 3rd from the top right now. They're only allowing 2.45 goals per game. Igor Shesterkin's been great, .916 save percentage. I feel like the Rangers are a team that's really proven themselves this season that they need business. They want to come out. They want to come out on home ice. They want to play hard. It is the first half of a back-to-back for the Wings. They play on Thursday in Chicago. So this is definitely going to be an interesting matchup, but we do our same game parlays. I know our friend Tom Vecchio has a good one for this game. Tom, take it away.
Thanks, Lauren. My favorite same game parlay for the Rangers and the Red Wings starts off with the Rangers money line. They're coming off a loss, and they're one of the best teams in the league. They've shown they can bounce back well after losses. They're also expecting to get Adam Fox back into the lineup, which is a big boost. And the Red Wings are expected to be without Dylan Larkin. So removing one of the best players from the Red Wings, and the Rangers adding one back should only be a positive for the Rangers. Next up, over 6.5 goals. Both teams are on the top half of the league when it comes to goals scored per game. The Red Wings are all the way up at 3.7 goals per game, and both teams are in the top 10 of the league when it comes to power play percentage, so they can get the scoring going when they have the man advantage. And then finally, Chris Kreider's recorded 3+ shots on goal. He's averaging 2.6 shots on goal per game this year. He's coming off a game where he had only 1. And more importantly, the Red Wings, they're in the bottom half of the league when it comes to total shot attempts allowed per 60 minutes in 5v5 situations. So if I'm expecting the Rangers to bounce back overall, we should see some of their top players like Kreider on the first forward line and the first power play stepping up their offense and really pushing the goals forward. Back to you guys.
Thanks so much, Tom. Appreciate it. Drew, what you think of his SGP?
I think that over is going to be the one that it can be hit or miss on it, because Detroit hasn't lost by multiple goals in their last 7. They are 4-1-2 with no multi-goal losses in their last 7 games. So for that over to hit, unless we're going to break that trend, we're talking about a 4-3 game. And that's that could be a little bit tricky, but I do like it overall. I do like what he's doing overall. That I think that sweating that over is a little bit, that might come down to the wire there on that one to see what happens.
I always feel like over sweats, though, are better than under sweats, because when you're just hoping a team doesn't score a goal, that's always just a little bit more stressful. But I'm excited for this game. This is the game of the night, in my opinion. We have the Red Wings in the Big Apple taking on the New York Rangers. That game on tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on TNT, or you can stream it live on Max. Last but not least, let's head to the left coast, the west coast. The Caps have traveled from the nation's capital to take on the LA Kings, and these are two teams right now that are trending in extremely opposite directions at this point. The Caps, yes, they've been hot in mid-November. They had a 5-game win streak going until they dropped the last 2 games, including Monday, to the Sharks, which is the bottom team in the National Hockey League right now. I know the Caps are going to want to get back on track offensively. They've been a little stagnant. They're averaging only 2.33 goals per game, second to last in the NHL. And only 3 players on their team, Drew, have double-figure points, and the most is Ovi with 12 points. But Dylan Strome, he's been good, at least helping to produce on the offensive side, 10 points in 18 games, including a team leading 8 goals. But they need to find the back of the net a little bit more than they are right now to try to have more success this season, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. You've got to get that offense going. And Strome on his last 3 road games does not have any points, goals, or assists. So he hasn't been able to find the back of the net or create goals just yet. For the year, though, on the road, in his previous 3 games, he had 4 goals away from home. So it's a bit interesting. He's still on pace for 36 goals this season, but not a lot of assists. Last year, of course, had a 65-point campaign. You mentioned a bit of a slump. It's interesting when you're looking at Washington, where they are in the standings. They still have a lot of games in hand. 4 games in hand on the Flyers, who are 1 point ahead of them, and 3 games in hand on the Carolina Hurricanes, who are only 4 points ahead of Washington in the standings. So that's a bit interesting. They're in a position where it's not the end of the world here. Even if you do go through a bit of a slow stretch, even if you do lose to San Jose, that is not the end of the world because they have so many games in hand on the teams that are ahead of them in the standings. Dylan Strome, though, going to need to get that offense going away from home like he did for the first few road games of the season. Hasn't done it lately, but it's going to be a tough task to do that against an LA Kings team here because they're on home ice and the Kings are just one of the best teams in the NHL right now.
That's what I was just going to say, because the Caps have the second worst offense in the NHL. They're going up against the best defense in the NHL right now, but still on the Caps, on the defensive side, they are top 8. They're allowing 2.78 goals per game. But again, the Kings, top offense in the league at this point. So it's like, what is going on right now? The LA Kings going up against the Capitals. Darcy Kemper for the Caps, he has an .894 save percentage on the season through 10 games. He is going to have a tough challenge because let's get into the LA Kings. They are hot. 5-game winning streak. Everything's going right at this point. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10 games. And offensively, they're averaging a league best 4 goals per game, 9 players in double-figure point totals. And Trevor Moore has been on a tear, 19 points in 19 games, including 11 goals. I feel like their offense is unstoppable at this point, Drew. How do the Caps slow them down?
I think you just have to count on your goaltending to keep the pucks out of the net because I don't know that you can really slow down this LA Kings team, at least not the way they've been going as of late. Trevor Moore with a point in 4 of his last 5 games. And we're talking about the Kings offense being what it is. In a division with Vegas and Edmonton, the Kings have been the standout team, at least lately. Obviously, the Golden Knights had an incredible start to the season. I know Todd was talking about it just the other day about how they've kind of hit a bit of a hiccup as Connor McDavid has come on, but Trevor Moore has been outstanding with 4 goals and 3 assists in his last 5 games played. He's on pace for 47 goals and 35 assists this season. He has been just outstanding for this LA Kings team. And I know I just keep using that word to describe the Kings, but what more can you say? The Kings have been just exceeding all expectations so far with where they are. 4 games in hand on VGK. They've got a 5-game winning streak going. They're 29 points, 13-3-3, just incredible what the Kings have been able to do. And Trevor Moore, one of the many players, as you mentioned, 9 players in double-digit points on the year. Adrian Kempe, Kevin Fiala tied for the team lead. They've each got 20 so far this season. This Kings offense, just would not bet against them at this point in the year because who can slow them down right now?
Yeah, I wouldn't bet against their offense or their defense because right now, defensively, they're also sitting at the top of the league in terms of goals allowed per game, only allowing 2.37 goals per game. Cam Talbot has really come out strong this season, 10-3-1, 931 save percentage, 2.02 goals against average. This could be a good spot to take the Kings puck line, Drew. How do you approach a game like this where you have one of the best teams in the NHL going up against a team that's not bad, but they're not great by any means? They're kind of trying to figure it out.
Yeah, with the Kings at -215, there's kind of 3 options that I always look to. It's puck line, it's Kings to win in regulation, because obviously if they're going to win by multiple goals, it has to come in regulation. Or the team total for Washington, taking them under. I think it's set to 2.5. It might be a little bit juiced, but you're talking about a team that offensively hasn't done a ton against a team that defensively has just controlled the game. So any of those, I think, are really good options. And it's kind of just a question of, because the under for this game might be intriguing if the Capitals don't get to 2 or 3 goals. I think that the under at 6.5 might be an interesting play as well, just because I don't think Washington's going to get all that many goals in this game against the LA Kings. And I mean, you could even in a 4-1 situation, under 6.5 is going to pay out and that kind of thing. So there's a number of ways you can bet on the Kings. The money line is the only one I would not take, because minus 215, there's going to be more interesting ways to bet on the Kings to win.
The juice ain't worth the squeeze at that point. That is the last game on our 3-game slate tonight. The Caps all the way in LA taking on the Los Angeles Kings. That game is on tonight, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN Plus in your regional sports networks. Let's take you back to the top. We got the Habs in Columbus taking on the Blue Jackets, 7 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN Plus. And then we send you to the Big Apple. The Red Wings in town, an original 6 matchup. The Wings taking on the Rangers, 7:30 Eastern time on TNT, and you can stream it live on HBO Max. It's going to be a fun 3-game slate tonight, and guess what? There's 14 games going on tomorrow. So, Drew, you said we're here to make money and make friends. We're giving the people what they want. We have an extended hour-long show tomorrow that we are so excited about, so make sure to tune in. Can you even wait, Drew?
No, I can't. I'm going to start looking towards tomorrow's games in probably an hour. I mean, this is, I love those games where we get almost every team in the NHL is playing tomorrow. That is, it's like a Christmas in November. It's almost December anyway,
Seriously.
So it might as well.
Christmas on the last day of November. We'll see you guys then. Until then, peace out. Have a great day.